Hi everyone, it's Jody. I wanted to do just a short little video to kind of tell you about my two new drawing sets. One is a large circle set, and the other is called Marking Sticks, and it's really just for marking lines. So we're going to go ahead and start with that because they're both, I guess, pretty straightforward, but I just wanted to share kind of why I wanted to have them and how I use them. So I'm going to put these aside for now, and we'll come back to that in a little bit. So the marking sticks so I just want to kind of give you a couple examples, okay? This particular quilt, if you look at it, I marked, I don't know how well you can see it in the video, but one section here, and it kind of repeats throughout, and then in between I filled with a smaller grid. So generally what I use, if I know they're all one size, I will use a stencil, but sometimes, and in this particular quilt, I knew I was going to have to fudge a little bit here or there, so I'm going to mark with a ruler. And I like to mark. I don't enjoy it, but I like to mark because it's the easiest way to get the best accuracy, I find. So in general, when I mark this, actually, because this is an older thing, I use these rulers. They may be kind of hard to see on there, and I have every size. These also come in a 1-inch wide, and I use them. I love them. But what I realized is, and why I started using them, I don't know how hard it's going to be for you to see, is that it has such a great grid on it. It's an 1/8 inch little grid, so it really gives you a lot of options when you're trying to mark. But what I found is that it started to become a hindrance to me, because if I'm marking this particular quilt, these are a lot of lines, right? So every time, because of the multitude of markings on here, every single time, like if I mark this line and I'm going to scoot over, every single time I have to look, find my right square how many I'm going over. Then I have to look up here, look that it's lined up everywhere, lined up with, previous lines and things, and then mark. Then I'm going to move it over. And there's just so many that then it's like, okay, again, I have to line it up. And I find that, like, when I'm marking this much, and I started to think about how much time that was adding to the process, it was like, gosh, I need some way to make this a little bit easier. So that was kind of my reasoning behind this. And I know not everyone marks, so this might not make a lot of sense to you. But if you are someone who marks, it may to you. So I wanted it to be very simple. So let's say these are 1/2 inch. So let me grab this one, right? I picked the 3 that I use most commonly, which are a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch, and a 1/2 inch. If I were going to do 1/8 inch lines, I would not mark that. I can just do as I'm stitching. And I also knew, because of these rulers, I use this little one the most, because I do a lot of things with like stencils, and if I'm dealing with a little tiny 2, 3, 4 inch square, I don't want to have to manipulate this big ruler over top of that when I could use one where it's just much easier. So that was the reasoning behind these. I wanted these also in a small size. Okay, so let me put these all aside over here. And kind of talk about, okay, so this one, it's 1/2 inch. So the line is in the center of a 1 inch. So now when I'm going to mark, I only have to look once. So let's say I mark this line right here. I'm just sliding over one line. There's no other options. I don't have to like scoot it to find the right one, or I accidentally went over 2 squares instead of 1. That's it. That's all there is. So it's just a matter of marking, sliding, marking, sliding. Same. And so good grief, the 1/2 inch was easy. The 1/4 inch, another thing I wanted, you know, when you're marking, this is different because these are straight, but sometimes you're marking like here, for an example. So I marked here and then up at the top and at the bottom. And I wanted it to be so that no matter which way I pulled the ruler over here, I had that marking. So if I wanted to go down here, instead of having to, not that it's a big deal, but you just never know how you're going to slide it over there. If I happen to just do this, it's still the same, just that one line, and I'm going to have my measurement. Again, I don't need to look anywhere. And then of course, there's the 1/4 inch, which I probably use that more than anything. So, I mean, I didn't think to even do a video because I guess, you know, what in my head it was pretty self-explanatory. But it's the same thing. So if I'm marking little 1/4 inch lines, I can simply mark one, slide it, mark, slide, mark. Then I did want to take it one step further because I do like to do some different spacings too. So I made one 1 inch, and these are marked on the bottom too, so you know. We have, this one's 1 inch wide, 1.5 inches, and 2 inches. Because sometimes, you know, I might want to mark, like these ones are 1 inch. So that can't get much easier. I can just slide the ruler up. Or I may want something, a little area maybe. Maybe an implied sashing or something. I can just lay this down and mark. If let's say I wanted to divide this in half because, I don't know, maybe I wanted to put little feathers in here. So I can mark the 2 outside edges. I did put a center dotted line, so you can just slide that over to get a center line. And then you could go back and fill in. You'd have your spine in there. And I did the same with the 2 inch. So it kind of covers all the things that I commonly mark, and I would guess are fairly common for anyone. So let me just show you one other example. And I think it was probably this quilt actually that really made me realize that, gosh, this was taking a lot of time. Because I marked on this quilt, I hope you can see it because it's dark color, but I marked every line on here. And these were a hassle when I did these frames around these because, you know, it was it's 1/4 of an inch. And then I was using this little ruler and I'm looking to make sure every time that I had the right one, and I erased tons of them because I marked them wrong. And I mean, all of these were marked. So again, with the 1/4 inch, I'm able to just mark it. I just look for that one line, slide, mark, slide, mark. It just made it so much easier. So there's that. And then I have one other quilt as an example, and that would be this one. So on this particular quilt, these would have been helpful. I didn't have them, but as an example, I said about the 2 inches. Let me slide this down just a little bit. You know, I marked these are 2 inch. Here, here, here. These are 2 inch. I would have been able to just turn this, mark these real quick. And then, you know, they're 4 1/2 inch squares in each one. And then also, if you look here, I like to mark areas, and I'll give you a guess what I used to mark this, because it's always at my quilting table, is my cutting ruler. Because, you know, I had it right there, I just laid it down and I marked both sides. So I do that a lot. So I do that a lot actually in borders. So let's say you put some designs along a border, you can just drop this down, and let's say you want to now connect them, you can do that super easy. So I think I hope that kind of covers the basics of it. Marking kind of sucks. I mean, I mark everything, but it's because I want the accuracy. And especially I feel like with lines, things can get really wonky really fast when you start stitching them. So if I were to use a stitching ruler and just kind of wing it with these, especially these littler like 1/4 inch lines, they really suck up some fabric. If I were to just say, okay, I know I'm going to fill this with 1/4 inch lines and just start out with my ruler, as I'm going, it's going to be, I'm sure you've all stitched some straight lines. It sucks up a lot of fabric. And by the time I start getting over here, things are getting a little bit weird. So I visually want these lines to be where they need to be. I don't want to end up with some weird little tiny piece here, or maybe it's just me, but I really, want them to be just so. So this saves me a lot of time. So I hope that makes sense. So it comes, again, with the 3/8, the 1/4 inch, the 1/2 inch, which I dropped on the floor, and then the smaller version of those same ones. And then you also have the option to mark 1 inch sections, 1.5 inches, and 2 inch. And they are called marking sticks. So I hope that explains why I wanted to have these and what they do. And I'm going to grab another quilt so we can talk about the circles. Okay, so now I want to tell you a little bit about the large circle set. So it marks circles that are from 11 inches up to 20 inches. I've wanted to be able to do this for a long time. I mean, I do have a couple of tools. One happens to be a woodworking tool that I used to use all the time, but I broke it. I just find it hard. I don't need to necessarily do a gigantic one, but I always often think that, like, oh, I'd like to have it look like there's big circles behind a particular thing. And that's not always as easy as it sounds to do. What I really would have loved to have is a full circle. But obviously, to mail someone a 20-inch circle would not be feasible. So I had to kind of figure out a way. And the only way that made sense in my head that would still be able to be shipped at an affordable price anyway, is to do 1/4 of each circle. So let me open these up and we will have a look at if I can get it. Let me pull these off of here. So what I did was each one does 2 different sizes, and it has the little center line, which was actually 1/8 of a circle. So just like any circle, really, for great placement, you do need to have an X, so you have something to line it up with. The way that you would line it up are the lines, 2 little lines on each end. Now, because it does 2 sizes, the smaller size, obviously, is the inside. But in this case, 19. The larger size is 20, which is on the outside. So you're going to notice it has the numbers on the end, so you know that this is 19 and 20. It also has 2 little lines for alignment, as well as 2 lines on the other end. So because the inside is the smaller one, that means the inside lines are also the smaller circle, just so that you line it up. So I was looking, I have, you probably can't see the whole thing. This is a little whole cloth that I marked in my whole cloth class, and I have it, so we're gonna use it as an example to add a circle. So looking at this, I mean, I'm not quite sure it'll stay, but I was thinking I might like to have it look like there's a big circle, and I kind of I don't know exactly how I'm going to quilt it yet, but I do believe I want this circle to look like it goes behind these points the whole way around. And I looked a little bit just a couple of minutes ago, and I think that was an 18 that would work. Yes. So 18, no, it wasn't. It was 16. Wasn't it? Yeah, it was 16. Okay, so again, I want this, I have this little point at the top, at the bottom, and on the two sides. So I'm going to get all this stuff out of the way here. And I want to mark this here. I'm going to use this chalk pencil because I think it'll show up better. And I have my X through this entire whole cloth, and then lines here. So I have two different, you know, options and lines to line up with. And because I'm going to do the 16, that's the smaller circle, that's the inside. So that means I'm going to line it up with the two inside lines. I'm just going to slide them until they're on there. And I also have this center line, so I do know that I can see that's correct. And I want to mark that. Ooh, you know what? I think maybe I actually want it to look like it goes through this one. Maybe. Let me look at it. Oh, it's going to. Anyway. Okay, that's perfect. All right, so I'm going to just leave it here. We're going to do the 16. So I lined up on this line, this inside line, or on the center. And I'm going to go ahead and mark that. But because I only want it here, I'm going to do this here. And I also think I'm going to make it look like it travels under these two and into this next section. So I'll go ahead and mark there as well. Let me turn this. We're just going to do the same thing again. So I'm going to slide it up, the inside line and the inside line. I'm totally not, oh no, there we go. Center. And again, it's going to look like it's going behind that point, so I'm not going to go across it. I'm going to skip this little echo line as well and complete that one. And again, you know, looking at this, if you wanted, you could add that echo if you want it to be wide, but I think I'm going to do something else with that. So I just want one line. Oops. Again, we're going to slide it up, inside and inside, center. Skipping that echo. Turn it again. Last one. Just slide it up. Get lined up on the right lines. And my center. And mark. So it goes behind that point. And there. So that was nice and easy. So, I mean, I think it goes pretty quick. So I have my nice circle, and, you know, I might actually now, and this is how it happens, right? So now that I see that, I actually would maybe like to have another circle down in here so that everything in those, which would be easy enough. I mean, if I did the smallest one, which would be 11. No, that might be kind of cool. Yep. So you can see right here, and actually this one I think I would make look like it goes behind this point. So you see how this can just quite easily mark, and I would just continue this the whole way around. And then maybe I put a separate design in this thing that, you know, looks as though it travels behind certain things. So I hope that makes sense. Again, I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. And there are 5 pieces to it. And again, it does from 11 inches to 20 inches. So I hope that explained how you use them. And they are available on my online shop, and I'll put the link at the end of the video or in the video description. Okay, bye.